I am so excited to welcome you all to our last Nature Matters of the season. My name is Kayla Furman. I work at Lewis and Clark National Historical Park here in Astoria, and I am so pleased to welcome you all this evening. As you know, Nature Matters is a monthly series that is held on the fourth Thursday of every month from October to May. This is a partnership between the National Park Service, the North Coast Watershed Association, the Lewis and Clark National Park Association, and the Fort George Brewery. We are so pleased to have you, and I'm kind of sad this is the end of our season. But we hope to see you all back in October, every fourth Thursday of the month. So you might as well just put a reoccurring reminder in your phone now, and we'll see you back when the rain comes back around. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Graham. He's the Executive Director of the North Coast Watershed Association, and then we'll get started.
Awesome. Thank you, Kayla. Thank you all for being here this evening with us. It's great to see so many familiar, some new, and just lovely faces. So it is my great honor and pleasure tonight to produce our speaker, Lily Calderón. And Lily is a birding enthusiast, community engagement specialist, and has migrated out today from Portland to give us a very nice chat about not only the role of birding, but also the role of birds in our community and healing some of the people who need healing, I think, and help the most. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your coming out and giving us this talk today.
Thanks, Graham, Kayla, and everyone here. I'm happy to be here tonight on your last Nature Matters speak. As Graham said, I'm Lily Calderón. I am a wildlife biologist and community engagement specialist with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. That's my daytime job. I am an avid bird watcher, a conservationist, and an advocate for diversifying the outdoors. That's me 24/7, all day, every day. So yeah, I'm gonna give you a little bit, my talk is gonna talk, or it's gonna be a little bit about what birding means to me, what it means for healing, and how I would like to connect birds and diverse underserved communities to bird watching. So I'm gonna start with a few personal stories. I'm gonna take you back to my family here. I was born and raised in the city of Chicago. My parents came from, oh, do I see some Chicagoans out here? Awesome. Very different, huh? Yeah, and my parents came from Mexico. They met when they were young adults in the city of Chicago, and this is where this family came from. In this picture, we are celebrating my youngest sibling's high school graduation. These milestones are a big deal for us, and so I don't know what state I was in, but I flew in just to come watch my little brother graduate. And this is one of the rare photos where all 8 of us are together. And as you can see, it's my mom and I and 6 other men. So, growing up, I am the second oldest. I have 1 older brother and 4 younger siblings. So my parents worked a lot. A lot of the responsibility was on my shoulders to watch over my young siblings. So that was quite overwhelming, being the only daughter. And I just remember being little and sitting in the back steps and needing some time and quiet. And I would just sit there, and luckily we had little mourning doves that would hang out on the, back in the alley on the wires. And I just watched them, and I felt instantly a calm. And it's just what I needed to get me through that little moment of overwhelm. So that was the first interaction I had with birds and their healing powers. On to another story. Let's see. I wish I could have played the sound, but it doesn't work some of the time. I'm sure you all know the songs of Mourning Dove. It's very nostalgic for many people. Fast forward a few more years. I'm a high schooler. It's winter. Chicago in winter is not the funnest. It's frigid. It's gray, a lot of concrete. It's pretty dead and depressing, or that's what it felt like to me. And I I remember I think going from my car with my family and going from my vehicle back home, and I heard this beautiful song. And I said, what was that? There's life out here? This can't be. So I kind of went on this, I really needed to know what this bird was. So I think I must have Googled something along the lines of Chicago birds singing winter, something like that. I got a list of it, and I think I went on the All About Birds website and just went down the list, and finally I landed on white-throated sparrow. And I'm like, yep, that's it. That's the bird that's singing. And from there on out, this bird became my favorite little bird ever. I've traveled to many different countries in South America. I got to go to Kenya a few years ago. I've seen a lot of different cool birds. But when people ask me what my favorite bird is, it's the white-throated sparrow. It's kind of basic, but I call it my spark bird. And I was in high school then, and I think I was super interested in bird watching, but I just didn't know how to get started. So that was something always in the back of my mind. And fast forward a few more years, I am a senior at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. It's my first semester. I kind of was striving for perfection. My dad's kind of motto was like, education's the key. So if you do well in school, you'll be able to make it out in life. So I was always like the A honor roll student, and I was trying to like uphold those. I was trying to do that as an undergrad. First generation, the first one in my family to go to school. And I was trying to plan for the future. Taking the ACT, trying to get into a master's program, and thinking about what job I wanted after that. It was a lot. I also remember I was doing 2 part-time jobs at the university at that time. So then I tried really hard, and I just couldn't. The pressure really got to me. I remember that I called my mom, and I told her, you know, like in a panic, I was like, Mom, I can't. I need help. I'm not okay. And her, she was very worried. And she said, no, Lily, like, you don't need to see anyone. You're gonna be okay. We're gonna come visit you. Luckily, we're only 2.5 hours away, and you're gonna be okay. So my parents and my 2 young siblings came to visit me, and that helped their support. I was, privileged enough to have that support from my family, and that kind of gave me a little bit of energy and power to keep going through my senior year as, to continue on. So it must have been finals, because, man, finals really do break people. And so then it was my second semester at the university, and I finally got to take that ornithology course that I've been hearing so much about. And brother, my dog. Oh, right here. This is my dog, everyone. And so I finally took ornithology, and that's where it all kind of exploded for me. And I decided that I took the ACT, and that was kind of traumatizing. I wasn't going to do it again. I was going to take a break from it, and I took a break from also looking for master's programs, and I decided that once I started learning how to birdwatch with that ornithology course, I was just going to take a break. I was pretty burnt out, and I was just going to explore Latin America. I was going to migrate to South America and spend the winters down there, because I just couldn't do the winters up north anymore. So that was the plan after undergrad. So, like I said, it snowballed bird. Okay, oh, perfect. Back in business. Yes, so I kind of, birds kind of became the center of my world. So that was a few years ago. It's been 7 years, I think, since I started bird watching, or a little more. I can't keep track. So more recently, I'm 2 years into the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The way that I was able to get into my position was through a program called the Director's Fellowship Program. So you're a fellow for a summer, and then you get a hiring authority, and you can get hired anywhere in the Fish and Wildlife Service or National Park Service or other Department of Interior agencies. So this was the first time I had a permanent job. I had done so many internships. I did a master's where I studied migratory birds. And then this was it. I'm like, wow, stability. This feels really, really good. The benefits were amazing. The first order of business was mental health and keeping myself healthy. So I looked for a therapist, and it was kind of difficult because I really wanted a therapist that represented me and my experiences. They were difficult to find. I was also looking for, I wanted her to be a woman, so Latina. A lot of them were out of network, so I had to pay a little bit more, but it was worth it. Luckily, I had her because 6 months into my new position, of course, seasonal depression hit me really, really hard. I don't, you never really know why. You just get really, really icky and sad. And so it was just weeks and days of like feeling really not okay, really not happy. And it's perplexing. Why on earth does someone feel like this? Will I ever feel happy again? And so I had a conversation with my therapist, and she asked me, what do I enjoy doing? And I said, oh, I love birds. I'm kind of obsessed with them, actually. She said, okay. The next time you see a bird, just like tune into that feeling of joy when you're watching them, and hold on to that moment for whenever you're not feeling well again. So I started birding every morning before work, and it was this little Wilson's warbler that actually got me through that big hump. And sometimes when I see one, I remember this sad time. I kind of tear up a little still. Like, thinking about this talk, I actually cried a little in the car. But I'm glad I'm actually not. I think I got it out of my system today, which I'm so grateful for. So, there have been so many times in my life where birds have really, been such a saving grace for me, especially when I was younger, and there's such a stigma with seeking help and bettering your mental health. There's also so many other barriers, including language. Spanish is not the only language that Latina communities speak a lot of native languages in addition to Spanish. Health insurance was an issue for me for so many years, and I'm sure it is for so many people who don't have a stable job. Lack of cultural confidence is also something I struggled with. I actually tried I was living in Colorado, and therapists don't really translate, so I've been looking for one here in Oregon, and I found one through my work, and actually it did more damage than good, which is really difficult. Like, no, I'm gonna go back to someone who connects with me. And again, the stigma, like what I experienced as an undergrad, my mom meant well, but I think it would help me more if I had that professional help. But yeah, I'm still very grateful for the love and support that my family has given me. I actually, because I'm a biologist, a scientist, I had to read some papers on there have been a lot of studies and talk on how bird watching is good for your mental health or health overall. And I actually had fun reading this paper here, The Joy of Birds, the effective rating for joy for county garden bird species and well-being, anxiety, and nature connection. I don't like academic papers, but this one actually made me smile the whole way through. It's a study that took place in the UK during lockdown, during the pandemic. And it just demonstrated how people who watched birds, through their bird feeders in their backyard, they experienced less anxiety, they connected to nature more, and there was also a different facet to this experiment where one group of people were tasked with counting the species of the birds, And the other group of people were tasked with kind of documenting the joy they felt when seeing birds. So when they were strictly, they both experienced less anxiety and more connection to nature. But when they were focused on the joy they felt when they saw birds, that was a greater increase. So I think that's just so cool. Community science is fun, but if you really tap into how good a bird makes you feel, I think it makes it all that better. Yeah, so this study is specifically on bird feeders. I think also there's plenty of benefits to just going out and bird watching. You get outside, you get to walk around. I remember during lockdown, I didn't really interact with people because we were working remotely, but I had my two birding buddies who we would go to a lake, and that was our spot every day, and I just chat with them. That was my social interaction for the day, and then I'd go back home and I was set because I'm so introverted. So that was good enough for me. So now I'm just going to talk a little bit more on what I do in my personal and professional life to connect underserved communities to birds and bird watching. I have 3 pictures here, each for the 3 different programs that I work on. The first one is called Bird by Bird Oregon. I'll talk about these all in detail. The one in the middle, I've been working with Juntos Afuera, which means together outside in Spanish, of Tillamook County, and the last one is the national organization Latino Outdoors. So the Bird by Bird program. The Bird by Bird program is actually this very neat program that was started in Boise, Idaho. It's this collaboration of different agencies, BLM, Fish and Wildlife Service, state agencies, nonprofits, and they all have an MOU, an agreement together to set up bird feeders at schools, and one professional comes in every month and talks to the students about birds and bird watching. My supervisor heard about this program. It's so successful in Boise. If you Google Boise, Bird by Bird Boise, you'll see all these cool videos of kids handling birds, watching bird feeders. It's so much fun. So my supervisor in the Portland office, she learned about it and she wanted to bring it to Portland. And she did that in 2014. Unfortunately, the bird feeder components were not successful in Portland. It's just not a good habitat for birds. It just wasn't conducive. That's a struggle that I relate to whenever I go back home to Chicago to bird watch. It's a mission to get to a nice green spot to see some good birds. So we kind of pivoted from bird feeders to doing field trips at the end of the school year. So students learn about birds all year long, and then we take them outside. And that's a picture here of, we're partnered with Portland Audubon, and they are the true professionals of education, and they take the students out. We went to Tualatin River National Wildlife Refuge and did a little bit of birding there. So that's Bird by Bird. One of my biggest tasks or duties in my position is to expand this program, and I'm trying to be very intentional in the schools and communities we reach out to. So far, it's only me in my program that's doing this work, so it's a lot to juggle. Okay, I will move on to the next program, Juntos Afuera in Tillamook County. I think Juntos Afuera is a nationwide program, and they are based in every county. So these 2 women, Nat and Megan, reached out to me I was like 2 months into my position with Fish and Wildlife Service. They're like, hey, Lily, we see that you like birds. We want to invite you to come Zoom in with us because it's still lockdown and talk to our students about birds and your career and how you got there. Nat and Megan work with high schoolers of Tillamook County. They specifically work with 3 high schools. And they just try to give these students, and it's specifically like Latino focused culturally, so it's like connecting 2 worlds, US culture and Latinx culture. And so I joined them via Zoom one one year, and then I finally got to go out with them last year, and that was a blast. That's where I took this photo. And then I will be going out with them again sometime next week. And I think so far this is like my favorite experience working with Fish and Wildlife Service, is just spending a week with these high schoolers. It's so fun kind of to see how awkward it is for them to be quiet, or because we kind of give them an activity where we ask them to like just focus on the birds and be quiet, but they're with their friends and they don't want to be quiet, they just want to like talk. But it's like, oh, it's okay to be quiet for like 10 seconds, just take it in. And then a reflection, they're like, yeah, it was weird, but I felt calm. I'm like, yes, it's working. Something's working. I'm also not that kind of bird watcher who's like, shh, you gotta be quiet on the trails. It's like, if you're building community while you're bird watching, cool. But if someone's listening for a bird, we can just be a little bit quiet. Maybe we can whisper a little. But that was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to joining them. And then recently, I became part of, or I'm volunteering with the Oregon chapter of Latino Outdoors. Latino Outdoors is a national organization that's first focused on building community for Latinos, and secondly, they organize outings for Latinos so that we can, have experience in the outdoors that we wouldn't typically have growing up, and also doing it in a community where you feel a little safer and won't feel judged. So I recently did that, and this photo is actually a collaboration of Juntos Afuera, Fish and Wildlife Service, and Latino Outdoors. We went out to the Garibaldi Historic Boathouse, and we fished, we birdwatched, we had arts and crafts and made eggs. And it was a great turnout. Maybe the burritos helped to entice people over. But yes, it's just so much fun to talk to students and tell them about these careers that they never would have learned about growing up. I mean, it's so funny. Thinking about it, I wanted to be a real estate agent when I was in high school. I was like, yes, that'll make me the money. And then I realized that I really enjoy being outside, and birds really make me so happy. So if some student has a non-traditional path and I can help them find it, it doesn't have to be birds, but it would be great if it's birds. It can be flowers, fish, reptiles, anything, as long as they get to go outside. Especially since, it's very disproportionate, the people who visit public agencies and public lands, and that's also something that I'm trying to overcome with by connecting to underserved communities. So those are the three main projects right now that I'm working on. There's so much that can be done, and it's good to have a crew, and hopefully this will expand with time. But I guess I kind of chugged through this a little faster than I expected. But thank you all for your time, and please, if you have any questions or you want to talk about more, I'm here.
If anyone has any questions.
So it's actually really surprising, because this morning the New York Times was this whole thing about citizen science birdwatching. and I think it'd be amazing for you in the groups that you're reaching out to use things like Merlin or BirdNet to actually feed back in, because then they could say, look, I helped advance the science of birdwatching. So I just think that's so cool. So just hit this synergy. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, last year, Juntos Afuera, I can elaborate more on what this group does. It's like they have a club every month, and they meet, and then in the summer, it's like this summer program, and every week they do something new. The students go kayaking, they go bird watching, they go ziplining. It's something fun. And last year they were focused on butterflies, and this summer they're focused on birds. So I know, I'm so excited about it. And I'm so welcome to use eBird. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the eBird app. Yeah, it's like really, it's how I track my bird list, but it's not user-friendly. But that's the ultimate way of collecting citizen science. But we're thinking of using like Survey123 to make it a little more simple, and then like funneling into the database somehow. But yes, I love that concept of enjoying birds, but also being citizen scientists. Yeah. Any other questions?
Just to speak a little bit on that, so Juntos Afuera has been contributing to citizen science on collecting data about the Oregon silver spot butterfly, which is an endangered and federally listed butterfly. The National Park Service, as well as the North Coast Watershed Association, are part of this regional effort to recover pollinator habitats here in the Platte Plains and the Columbia Pacific region. And so I was at a big regional meeting to recover this silver spot butterfly and actually saw a picture of Lily on the presentation. I was like, I know her. That's my friend. And so I love that this just came full circle right now. Next question.
I can talk loud. So you said your smart bird is the white-throated sparrow. What's your nemesis bird?
That is a good one. Oh, someone say Baldeo. Oh, actually, what is my nemesis bird? I was just thinking about it. Oh, that is...
While you're thinking, my smart bird is the belted kingfisher, and my nemesis is the snowy owl.
So you haven't seen the snowy owl yet?
No.
I think mine right now is great gray owl. I mean, they're the Oregon bird kind of, and I've been trying to see one. People keep showing me the pictures of like not one, but two great gray owls they've gotten so far. So, yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
So do you use the birding app called Merlin? Are you playing Merlin?
I love Merlin. Merlin
It's
is...
cheaty, but it's great. Because you don't have to have the ear. You've got a mechanical ear. Digital ear.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know what Merlin is, it's this neat app, and it's like, you can download packs for your region, you can put in like, I saw this bird behaving this way, it was on a fence, it had these three colors, and then it gives you a list of birds that you might have, and you turn on the sound ID, and I love that, and it like tells you all the birds that are singing, and that's also something in that study that I found, like, you don't even have to see the birds. If you hear the birds, it just makes you so much happier, and that is true for me. That's why I just love birds too. They're easy to see, they're colorful, they're charismatic, and you can hear them wherever you are. But yeah, if you don't have Merlin bird app, you should get it. It's free. It's free.
Can you say the name again real slow?
It's Merlin, Merlin.
And that's called a Merlin Bird
That's
app.
all. I'm sorry?
Merlin Bird app?
I think it's just Merlin, but
Okay.
Merlin Bird ID.
Okay.
3.0, yeah.
So I've read a couple of pieces about like challenges or confrontations of being an African American bird watcher. I'm curious about the Latin experience and like what's unique in that experience compared to other bird watchers who might be white.
I mean, yes, I think Black Birders Week will be coming up soon, and that was all, it all came about because of that experience in New York, and that there was a Black man bird watching, and a woman called the police on him because he asked her to leash her dog. And that's why organizations like Juntos Afuera, where you're with a group of people who look like you, who know your experience, or Latino outdoors, we create that community so we feel protected, because even though you're, let's say Rocky Mountain National Park, because that did happen once, we went on a hike there, and people were just like not happy with a group of brown people walking around, and you just get either mean comments or mean stares, and it's never nice. It's deterring, right? But that's as much. I don't know, Kayla, if you have anything else, but...
I would say
that's why representation matters. And I think, so I started at the park as an intern back in 2017, and Lily was one of my mentors. And so seeing someone who had a similar lived experience, I grew up in a city in New Jersey and didn't have many role models that looked like myself, working in the outdoors. I think that's why it's so powerful that we can do what we're doing now to show young people that there is space for them, but it really takes a whole community to do that. So like we can stand up here and like do what we're doing, but it's even more to have allies and people in the community who are looking out for you and to make you feel included in the space. So we all can play a role here to be able to make the outdoors more equitable and accessible for all.
Yes, big time on the allyship. Right now, I'm like the only person of color on my team and the only one doing the work that I'm doing. So it gets to be a lot and it gets to be very exhausting. And no one really has been like, hey, I'll be your ally, I'll be your backbone. And if I had someone be there for me like that, my job would be so much more easy. Or at least I would have that moral support. So the allies, yeah, that's super helpful. Yeah.
So how can organizations like the North Coast Watershed Association and others be organizational allies to larger programmatic causes? How can we bring the experiences for these communities to a story?
Yeah, so I guess I'll just talk more about what Fish and Wildlife Service is doing, and maybe that can be mirrored. But historically, public agencies and Fish and Wildlife Service is no stranger, is very much catered to the traditional public, and so it's like a lot of programs that are being delivered, people going to the schools, and it's just the schools that would benefit the most, or and for me, because I'm like I said, I'm one person, and I'm trying to be very, very intentional with the schools that I visit or the communities that I engage with, because representation matters. And if I can go to a school that's more diverse than not, I will be there. So that I'm not the only one doing that. There's also, it's called the Urban Program for Portland, and they also are very intentional with the communities or partners. It's all about partnerships, and it's like finding that community leader, because building trust between communities takes time, and it's all about trust. It's like, especially with the government, it's like, who are you? Can we trust you? What are your real intentions? Actually, was out doing butterfly surveys yesterday, and I was in a government vehicle, and a man was heckling me. He's like, "What are you doing, lady? Like, I don't trust you." And I'm like, "I'm just surveying butterflies." I'm sorry, like, I really don't have any top secret anything. But yeah, that's my biggest piece of advice. It's like tapping into and finding those leaders, and then they're the key. Support them, ask them for what the community needs. Don't assume. That's, I think, one of the biggest struggles is like, oh yeah, this community needs another park. Do they need more programs? What do they want? What do they need? So that those are the first steps, and those partnership building can take years. Yeah.
I'm involved with an organization called Beyond Toxics that's working on a lot of environmental justice is one of the main things. But they also talk about how to make backyards and whatnot friendly to pollinators. And the organizations that you work with, do they talk about, I know like with monarch butterflies, for years I've always heard people say, at least in the Midwest, plant, now I forgot, milkweed that helps. Are there anything that you're doing to help the habitat for the birds that you're watching?
Yeah, so luckily a lot of pollinators and birds go hand in hand. And I think there's this neat website, I'll have to look it up and maybe send it to Kayla and maybe she can post it up on the Facebook page. But it kind of, it shows you, or it's like, it shows you what you can do to help pollinators and birds at the different levels. Like if you're in an apartment building, you can have potted plants. If you have a backyard, you can do this. It's like different levels, so you don't have to have acres of land to make a difference. You can have a bird feeder and maintain it, you know, nice and clean and healthy for birds, or a really good pollinator plant like bee balm, which I think is native up here. I know it is native in the Midwest. And hummingbirds love that, and I know goldfinches love that too, so that's like a double whammy, great plant. Also echinacea, purple coneflower. So those are some of the things you can do, and I do love the concept of bird feeding. It just, like, if you're gonna feed birds, you really do have to maintain those feeders, because they do more damage than good.
What do the schools do when the school is not in session? Do they have someone who comes in and feeds those, or fills those bird feeders?
I believe, so if we do have bird feeders in the Portland area, I would love to have a cohort of maybe high schoolers, like mentors or volunteers, to help keep the bird feeders stocked. I'm not sure what Boise does exactly, but I know they do maintain them. And I didn't mention this, but the bird feeders and the bird food are free. They come with the program. But yeah, that's something that I know you have to really think about. And I love the concept of like older students mentoring younger students and kind of maintaining and having that responsibility. So if I could expand on that in Portland, that's what I would do.
Can you talk about what the consequences are of not keeping a bird feeder maintained?
Yeah, so I think there was a really bad outbreak a couple years ago, and I think it's still ongoing, the highly pathogenic avian influenza. And I was living in Colorado at that time, and we were getting lots of house finches and pine siskins, and they're just like big flock of birds that come, and they're like, they come to the feeder, it's a feeding frenzy, it's so much fun to watch, but they also poop everywhere. If it's a cage feeder, they stick their heads in the feeders, and if they have like conjunctivitis, it's when like their eyes grow really big. They rub themselves on those pieces, and then they transfer either these diseases and viruses through either feces or contact. So that is a consequence of not maintaining your bird feeders, is that transmission of diseases. So that's something I advocate against. Be like, please, I love having feeders every couple of weeks, sanitize and wash them, or whenever they start to look icky. Also, hummingbird feeders, super easy to maintain, but if it's getting hot and that's starting to get cloudy, your hummers are gonna get sick. So yeah, those are some of the consequences.
What are some of your favorite burning spots here in the Northwest?
Ooh, okay, so because I live in Portland, or spend most of my time in Portland, I am about a 10-minute walk from this spot called Oaks Bottom, and I just love it. It's been my patch. It's been fun to watch winter transition into spring. I'm what we're called patch bird, so I'm like, I just want to see how that spot changes all year round, and I don't really go too far. What other spots? What other spots? I love coming to the coast whenever I can. I need to go see the puffins at Cannon Beach before they get overrun.
Have you seen, you know, it's very interesting that I've not been here for very long, but the white pelicans are here.
I saw that.
And I think about a week and a half is when they started showing up. You know, but they come they're so seasonal. I actually don't know very much about them at all, because I tried to look it up, and they said, no, there are no white pelicans up here. It's like, well, no, I see them.
They are here.
I know. I drove in and I saw a group of them. I don't know from what bridge I was crossing, but like, white pelicans, because it's brown pelicans that are coastal and white that are interior, but I guess it's interior enough? I don't know. I don't know. Huh?
We have both.
Yeah, both here, yeah.
Both of them show
Yeah.
up. Yeah, both browns are here.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
yet.
Yeah, so. And then when it's migration, everything kind of goes, like, they just go wherever they can, and then they'll figure the way when they need to start breeding.
what's the most exciting bird that maybe a student that you've worked with has seen, or you've seen, or what's something that, you know, has really gotten people you've worked with enthused about bird?
Oh my gosh, let me see. It was so cute. A couple of weeks ago, I went to Ohio for vacation, and it's called the biggest week. Yes, go Ohio. The biggest week in birding, and it's called that because migration is amazing there. A lot of the warblers come through. They're like these beautiful, colorful birds, you know, blue, yellow, and just so cute to watch. And they all kind of like congregate in this one stopover site. And I was there, and my parents drove a few hours from Chicago to come join me. And my dad's just like, "Oh, what is this? Like, people are birding? They actually come here to do this?" And at the end of the weekend, he's like, "I learned a new word today, or this weekend, warbler." So that was the cutest thing so far. Just watching him be so amazed with people being amazed by birds is cool. Yeah. It does. I know. I heard. I think billions. Yeah. It's impressive. I mean, there's so many people out there. I don't know how we all fit on the boardwalk.
So kind of related, do you ever find it hard to like engage young folks, or like, because it's, you know, you see other wildlife, everyone is going to be excited if you see like a cougar or like some, you know, the charismatic megafauna. But I feel like because you can see a bird anytime, like literally everywhere you go, you can see birds, and I feel like that's actually an appeal, but maybe it's hard for kids to like.
Noticeable in the morning, but if you can hear them sing, or I think it's also just so exciting to be able to use binoculars and be like, "Oh, I actually saw that bird through my binoculars." But yeah, that's why consistency is key, and that's why the Bird by Bird program is awesome, because we come in every month to the same classroom, the same students. So I'm super excited to work with the Juntos group again, because it's like, they're high schoolers, so I'll probably get to see a few of them for a few years and just like plant that little birding seed in their heads. But yeah.
So I'm going to point to Chuck,
Okay.
who is a great teacher in Seaside, and I was struck. I'm happy at the education specialist part. So I've worked with Chuck for years. I was struck by the number of mentions I've gotten about owls at his school, and just can you share a little bit about the excitement for your students?
Well, certainly they've been nesting in our play shed for a couple weeks now. Well, probably more than a month. But the guano brought it all to everybody's attention. And in the last week, twice when we've arrived at school in the morning, the owlets have been out on the playground, on the play structures, and we keep the kids off, and we've had people come in and handle them, and they've since released 2 of the 3 that were in the nest into the forest around our school. So it's been pretty exciting for our kids.
I mean,
Barn owls.
Yeah, owls. Do you know barn owls?
Barn owls.
Oh,
Yes.
Barn. Yes. In our play structure.
What did the students think? Did they think that they were cute, creepy?
Oh, they were super excited.
Cool.
They came and told me to come out on the playground.
Awesome. Were you all tracking that through eBirds or kind of through? No, that's fine. I'm just curious. So cool.
Any other questions?
What's your dog name?
Oh, this is a niece. Yeah. It's Spanish for star of anise, and yeah, I don't know how to say it in English. But her coat reminds me of the spice, so that's her name. And she's been pretty good today. I'm very thankful for that.
Can we all give a round of applause for